Well, Ed, today we're engaged in blatant nepotism on the Common Good website. But, well, we can back off of that a little bit because the truth is, none of us here is getting paid. So it isn't exactly like hiring family members. But um, yeah, I'm the dad, and I'm having this conversation with Lauren, who's the daughter, and uh, it's well, we're looking forward to this. I think it's a lot of fun. There's so much she's doing that I don't know nearly enough about. So I'm glad that we're talking. So welcome, Lauren. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It's just a real treat. So, okay, let's set up the parameters for our the people who are listening, so that we get a little sense as to what you've done. You've worked in nonprofit. You've worked in small for-profit, global for-profit. Now you're working in an academic setting. Just introduce yourself to us a little bit through these experiences with reference to these different parts of the economic sectors of the economy.
Great. So, my professional career began as a hospital chaplain and certainly a nonprofit setting. During that time, I also was working as the executive director for a small nonprofit organization called Green Sangha, spiritually based environmental action.
Mm-hmm.
And
In which religious tradition?
mostly Buddhism,
Okay.
although we were certainly open to people of all spiritual and no spiritual paths.
And your hospital work was with in a Catholic institution,
Correct.
but very interfaith in terms of its clientele.
Certainly providing spiritual care to people of all traditions.
Yeah. So we just want to underscore that you've had some real chances here to develop your interfaith commitments that you
Right.
have. And okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So I interrupted you. So please continue. So Green Sangha, and then from there.
And from Green Sangha, what I really started to distill from that experience was a great passion that I have for spirituality and ecology. And I was given the opportunity in 2007 to leave the nonprofit healthcare world and go to work for Act Now Productions, which was certainly a for-profit model. And we were going to be providing sustainability training for multinational organizations, the first one being Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
During my time at Act Now Productions, we were purchased by Saatchi & Saatchi, one of the largest advertising agencies in the world, and we became a global sustainability firm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you are really were a kind of a sub-component within Saatchi & Saatchi, with some interest on the part of the global firm to learn from you and to be influenced by this sustainability element that they had just purchased. So I don't know how deep that commitment was, but
Well, what you're detailing is actually noteworthy because there was a lot of hope on our part that this was a large corporation
Yes.
capable of great change for the planet,
yes.
and that they were asking to be influenced by us. We just weren't entirely sure what that would look like from sort of the client-facing standpoint, and then as it would ripple out to the clients they were serving.
Yes.
Was it just internal change they were looking for? Was the internal going to become external? And at the time that we were beginning to do that work with them, the economy really shifted. And so it's still a little mysterious to me about, had the economy not tanked in the way that it did, would we have maybe been able to continue to experiment a little bit more than I think we ultimately did?
Mm-hmm. And you know, you said the word Walmart, and because it really has such iconic status in the last probably 20 years now of what growing big businesses look like. You have to say just a little bit for us with what that contract entailed that Act Now Productions had with Walmart to what did Walmart want of you?
Great question. I want to contextualize that just by saying it was 2007. And I really think that was such a special period in our country. The window was cracked open for whatever reason, because of Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, because of the Bush administration and how frustrated people were. I don't entirely understand why people were suddenly very interested in, quote unquote, going green.
Yes.
Walmart knew that they would not be able to push a sustainability agenda throughout their company if their employees did not understand what sustainability meant. And Act Now Productions became the group of individuals who went across the country helping the associates understand what sustainability meant on a personal level. So in essence, asking the employees to become more personally sustainable in their own actions.
And as I correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understood about Act Now Productions was that also fit the educational model or the training model in Act Now Productions, believing that the way to influence a massive corporation, one of the significant ways, was not just top down, that it was really important with cooperation at the hierarchical level to also among the workers to be able to really work at that level, shifting some consciousness around sustainability.
Very true.
Okay.
Very true.
And do you think your year of or more of holding these day-long training sessions with Walmart associates and store directors, do you feel that theory was validated, that approach was validated?
I do, particularly if we remember to include that endorsement needs to come from the top.
Yes, I think.
So, without judging that or evaluating it, just to understand that very often, at least in the Walmart culture, but I think corporate culture, the hierarchy it cannot be underestimated. And so there is a great desire for change to happen once I have been given permission.
So as a store manager, once I've been given permission, if I have a consciousness for this at all or desire, then I can go for it. But if I haven't been given permission,
I'm going to wait until mom or dad says it's okay.
Uh-huh.
And it's really great if mom or dad says, this is what I'm doing for sustainability. Now, what would you like to do?
And to what degree do you think that was going? Where was Walmart on the spectrum? And of course, the hierarchy is big enough, and even Bentonville is big enough, even with your trips there. But you did have some people there who you felt were having a very strong conviction about this.
Yep. I think that because folks at the executive level were also asked to participate, and really it wasn't just lip service. They went through the same day-long training as everyone else, that they had their own mini conversion experiences and saw how their sustainable actions were making a difference for themselves, for their family, for their community. And when they were able to then talk to the store managers or the cashiers or whomever it was, and that cashier saw that, oh my gosh, the regional vice president is doing this. That was pretty inspiring.
But as far as your contract with them went, that wasn't really part of the contract, was to create systemic change. That was really left up to the people who could create that systemic change within the corporation as they themselves spent a day thinking about this, and then were in conversations further about this emphasis in Walmart as a corporation. I mean, a lot of that was left up to how that got worked out in the corporation, I think.
Yes, and you're tapping into how many tentacles this notion really has, right? Because there's sort of the micro version of how this is affecting the way that I live at home or the product I buy. It's affecting a slightly larger circle when I think about what I'm marketing at my store, because I've come to believe in this product more than this one. And then it's also affecting the supply chain and where I'm sourcing this stuff from. I want fair trade bananas. So then suddenly Walmart is, buying out fair trade. We haven't produced enough fair trade bananas yet to scale it to the Walmart buying.
Okay. Is Walmart buying fair trade bananas?
I shouldn't have actually put that in there, but the fair trade bananas are more like a Whole Foods predicament.
Okay.
Whole Foods is trying to source fair trade bananas.
Okay.
Organic bananas was a big deal for Walmart.
Okay. And Walmart may very well have that same issue. But I've heard Walmart use that in other cases, that the production isn't at a scale that they can make work at this time. Okay, so that was with Act Now Productions. Then it was bought out by Saatchi & Saatchi, and then you were working with other corporations. Anything different? What was it? Was with Frito-Lay and AT&T. Anything that you want to comment on? Because every corporation has a different culture, I'm thinking, and you had to kind of work with that. How did that go for you?
I think most noteworthy is each corporation has its own culture, and there are certain ways that the same story was told, but it had to be spun quite differently
Yes.
because of the culture, the demographic, the geography.
Right.
So if the company were, more politically conservative, then it was less okay to talk about climate change. But it was very okay to talk about health, wellness, reducing carbon, perhaps. Just figuring out how you could spin it, what you could emphasize, what you
Right.
couldn't.
Okay. Well, now you've shifted and left that sector, and you've moved into an academic sector of the economy, which and in academics across the country, there's been an enormous amount of corporatization, and so we have high schools, elementary school, whole school districts being operated on corporate models, and universities have corporatized a lot. And here you are in a very new and innovative institute working at a graduate level for people who want to be chaplains. You can just say a word about your position there, and how you feel you're working on issues of sustainability. Since you call yourself an eco-chaplain, we can say more about that in a minute. But here you are now in a different sector of the economy, with different kind of work, and in another sector of the economy that in the larger picture, there's an enormous tension between the corporate model and what education means. I'm not sure your school is feeling that, but what's it like now that you've shifted for the last 6 months or so to this institute as dean?
Yeah, you've said so much, and my mind is spinning about how much I want to say here. I am currently serving as the Dean of Chaplaincy at the Chaplaincy Institute. It's an interfaith seminary, and majority of the students do go on to work in healthcare settings as spiritual care providers, as chaplains. But another and growing percentage of the students do go on to do what I fondly call stealth chaplaincy.
Stealth chaplaincy.
So these individuals are providing ministry, support, spiritual care, call it what you will, in the environments that some of us might find surprising.
Okay.
This has maybe always been the work of a chaplain, the one who actually leaves the house of worship as it's recognized,
Okay.
and goes to areas that some of us may call secular, some of us may call profane, certainly areas that have not been deemed sacred, such as a prison, a battleground, a hospital, a corporation. And the chaplain's job is to go in and say, here too, this area too is holy, or can be. So in the work that I did with Green Sangha in the living rooms of people's homes, in the work that I did in large hotel conference rooms with Walmart Associates, I think they're both really great examples of how we grow the earth community, if you will, and find like-mindedness and begin to talk about values in a new way that changes our behavior, it changes our consciousness. I hope that that's happening in the work that I do at the Chaplaincy
Right.
Institute.
That's the aim and the mission of what you're doing there. Let's take just a step back. Everyone also listening should be aware that this interview is being done here in San Diego, but Lauren actually lives in Berkeley, and the Interfaith Chaplaincy Institute is there, and she worked in the other businesses act now and such, as she worked in San Francisco offices of those particular businesses. But let's step back to you some years ago decided to just declare yourself an eco-chaplain. And on the way since then, you've been, I mean, it was something, I think, to say it kind of simply, you felt it in your gut that it was the right thing to do. You knew you had been caring for people in a healthcare institution for 5-6 years, whatever it was, and you knew the difference between palliative care and preventive care, and you also saw Earth. I think as you saw it, you felt it needed some palliative care. And that preventive care was desperately needed, but maybe not being given enough attention. And so here you decided to re-ritualize your own ordination in an outdoor setting to be an eco-chaplain. But since you probably have never seen a sign in any one ad or posted online saying "Wanted Eco-Chaplain," say just a little bit more about your own personal experience in going this way, and how you feel like you're giving that definition now in these last years, and working with that. I think it's another form, I guess, of stealth chaplaincy in part.
Right. Well, if we go back again to my mention of 2007 and think actually to 2006, things were so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they're a lot better, but things were so bad that I was in a hospital where I had started an environmental stewardship committee. And it was in response to knowing that doctors were no longer sterilizing their scalpel after a surgery. They were throwing it away and waiting for the next one to arrive in its blue wrap.
Okay.
And the waste that was being generated was mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
I had been to India and seen what their hospitals looked like, and just kind of scratching my head thinking they could have used that scalpel.
Yes.
What the heck are we doing?
Yes.
So this madness that I was perceiving was having an effect on me, to the point where I knew that I really needed to be doing something to get my hands dirty in the work of ecology and reconnecting with this. It was like I was in second grade with the hospital folks, and I needed to go back to kindergarten and really connect with the earth first before I could think about graduating to the people.
Okay.
I can't help these people until I've helped the planet.
Okay.
And so by renewing my vows, it was as if I was recalibrating what I believed, realigning myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was very important.
Mm-hmm.
I think my ministry stems from that understanding now.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I don't always know where it's going. This is a very interesting time on our planet.
It is a real faith walk in that way. And you know, another thing that you're doing where you're walking an innovative path is in this area of interfaith. I mean, here we're talking not so much, I mean, in part about economic structures, but we're talking also about ecclesiastical structures and religious traditions that have proud histories that their advocates defend with great vigor, and these structures can be very hard to cross, and of course they do have economic parameters, because many of the institutions are actually competing for various kinds of economic funds, and also it all fits here in this whole thinking about a jubilee economy that the various religious traditions need very much to come together and work on the fact that economics functions as religion in our world, and people give the global economy give incredible devotion to maximizing profit and to the deity of the market. So we've had a podcast on this some months back. And one of the things that I know is happening is that world religions are starting to come together to recognize this, that, we have a there's a world religion going on here that's bigger than any of our traditions, and all of our traditions need to help learn from each other so that we can really engage the religious function of the global economy. Now, I'm not asking you to comment on that particularly, but I'm say just a little bit more about how in your chaplaincy institute or at your work at a Catholic hospital, you could identify as an interfaith chaplain. Why did that hospital want that? Or why are chaplains who are being trained in an interfaith chaplaincy institute, why are they desired in the world place today? Because lots of people, I think, don't understand actually the kind of progressive and innovative possibilities that exist in some places, at least, for the interfaith perspective of a practicing spiritual person in a profession.
Whew.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I sort of went on a big question there that got a lot of my own thinking into it. But please respond, because you do have some experience in this.
That packs a punch, that question. I think, certainly a healthcare institution wants an interfaith chaplain because there are patients of so many beliefs and so many cultures. And when our body is not working in the way that we believe it should be, we draw on what we believe. Mm-hmm. We look to the sacred. So it's sort of kind of the interfaith intention in a Catholic hospital maybe seems more obvious there. Why is a school like the Chaplaincy Institute teaching interfaith theology?
Yes.
That question feels, I actually feel like there's a lot of prophetic potential in an interfaith seminary.
Okay.
And that's really addressing some of what you did say, Dad, in this idea of one earth economy.
Okay.
I think that when we think about interreligious dialogue, a multi-faith understanding, that so often we are kind of walking this tightrope between saying, oh, in order for me to survive in this marketplace, if you will, I have to be distinctly different from this house of worship over here.
Exactly.
However, at the end of the day, many of my sacred teachings are speaking about the same thing yours are. And my understanding can be enlivened, affected when I come to appreciate what the Quran is saying and look for the similarities in the Hebrew scriptures. Very often we talk about one river with many wells, or we talk about one mountain and many ways to climb the mountain. It's not about cherry picking from each tradition. It's not about not seeing these paths as distinctly different and unique and loving them for that. It is about saying we are, in fact, though, in the river together. We're all wet. And we're all trying to get to the summit of this mountain. And can there be a way that appreciatively, respectfully, we do that together in celebration instead of reductionism and competition?
Yeah. And, I'm remembering, I want to go back just a moment. I'm thinking here about how does a person get position with interfaith work? Because you can't go to many parishes in most cities and say, I'm an interfaith person, can I get a position on your staff? I mean, there might be a few places that
perhaps we could pray for that.
That could work
in the future.
But at the same time, in the chaplaincy field, this is certainly possible. In fact, I think I'm recalling that Father George at St. Mary said one of the reasons he wanted you to come on staff there was because you were interfaith.
That may be true.
Because he said they were all Catholic, but obviously they're on the pastoral staff, but they're but their clientele obviously wasn't.
Right.
So he at least had the vision to see that you could bring something to that institution that they were lacking. And I don't know if your other chaplains that are graduating from your school are finding a similar experience, but that really stuck in my mind.
Well, our world is getting so much smaller, right? I just earlier today we were talking with a friend who works with Iraqi refugees in San Diego. I don't know that a Protestant Christian chaplain would know what to say to an Iraqi patient in a hospital. But it's wonderful if there's somebody with some interfaith training who can bring some awareness and sensitivity to that situation.
And how, and training, say just a little word about that. So if I come to your, if I'm someone who says, I'm listening to this podcast, this is kind of interesting to me. Maybe I could take a little training in this institute and learn something about other faiths, because in my city or my community, I having increasing opportunity for this, and at times I've thought maybe even in joint prayer, I don't exactly know how to do that because I don't know how to pray with language that kind of works, and I can just pray in my own, and maybe they'll be okay with that, and that's fine. I just want to be sensitive, and I'd like to know more about these other traditions. What kind of training would you give me? What am I going to experience if I enroll?
So a student on the ordination or commissioning to be a chaplain track at the Chaplaincy Institute will be exposed to world religions and interfaith theology. They'll receive training in spiritual care practices, but also spiritual practices for each tradition. And some of it will be very focused on healthcare settings, what would apply at the bedside.
Okay.
But some of it would also address things like a Muslim male and a Catholic female wish to get married. What will this wedding ritual look like that will be meaningful and respectful to all of the family members involved?
So the rituals of marriage, you've conducted a number of them. People are actually looking for someone who's sensitive to multiple faiths. And I think in many cases would choose an outdoor setting or a setting that isn't identified with any particular one religious tradition.
In fact, there is the Pew Charitable Trust cranked out a new statistic last year about the growing percentage of people who are quote unquote spiritual, not religious. And the Chaplaincy Institute, I think, is a wonderful training ground for ministering to this population.
And do you find some people through it feeling more deeply identified with their own tradition as a result of what they learn, or how does that work?
I would imagine. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I do think that very often the school brings people around to a homecoming of sorts with something that they have maybe known to be true, but were then wounded by and needed to leave for a while. There can be a spaciousness that is encouraged by spending some time in other religious traditions.
Well, that makes so much sense, because people do experience wounding in their own religious tradition. It doesn't matter which one it is. Some of them they just want to get away from that tradition. So I can see how that word spaciousness resonated with me. Yeah. We're running out of time, so let me just ask finally, in the business world, there are some people who just feel like, they want to keep out of it the sacred, any sense of the sacred. It's just not part of the worldview. Business is business, and the logic of the market reigns. But yet, there are many others who are finding it essential, in fact, to have not just an ethical business, but to have a business that has a deep appreciation for creation. They are looking for a triple bottom line. They are looking for a sense of the sacred. Do you have any observation about where that is out of your experience as a we'll say as an eco chaplain who really has the sense that no matter what profession you're in, what institution you're working in, the world, a worldview that has a sense of the sacred belongs there?
One of the things I found most exhausting in the work that I was doing in the multinationals was trying to find a uniform way of talking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when it comes down to it, our relationship with the earth ends up being a uniquely personal thing.
Ah.
It's very universal. We all depend on it. We're interdependent together with the
Yes.
earth. But one person finds it through fishing,
Mm-hmm.
and another person finds it through worrying about what his great-grandchildren will have.
Mm-hmm.
And another one finds it because she's been an organic farmer since she was 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it heartening to have one-on-one conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I also knew that I would never reach the whole room
Mm.
if I was only having one-on-one conversations. I do think that the more we can infuse our conversations with regenerative language, with a sense of seasons, with a sense of cycles, with a sense of circle versus line, with a sense of midwifery, transformation, composting.
Mm-hmm.
These are words that transform the way that we hold power and change in our culture. And it is more than a triple bottom line. It's kind of a quadruple bottom line. And we need to be thinking into this fourth dimension, the
Which is-
dimension of spirit, the dimension of the elements.
And finding the language to do that, and you're suggesting that kind of in a broad category, regenerative language. Any of the words and activities that are regenerative start moving us there.
I think so.
Oh my goodness, this is very useful, very helpful. Thank you so much for being a part of this today. There may be people who will want to connect with you, so we'll make a point of putting your contact information in the introduction to this particular program. And thank you, Lauren, for being on The Common Good.
This has been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.